it's really important that we understand that there's a difference between business rights and personal rights. I've heard so much about how businesses can say, well, no shoes, no shirt, no service. We talked earlier in caucus about this. Shoes having to do with liability. You don't want the patron to cut their feet on something on the floor. You have to have shoes. A shirt protects you from indecent exposure. Those are all things that do not have to do with a medical situation. Whether or not you should have to disclose your medical information to a business in order to patronize that business, I can't think of anything at the moment that would compare, that we would allow. I have a business and I want to know if you have AIDS or not, because I'm a barber. I have a business and I want to know if you can walk in here or not, because I don't like to have to accommodate for wheelchairs, because then I can't put as much stuff in there and I have to make things wider. I don't like that. And so as a business owner, I have a right to have narrow aisles so I can fit more product and make more money. I don't want you in my business if you might have a seizure, because you could fall and hit your head. So I need to know if you've been prescribed medication. Are you on medication? And have you been seizure-free for a year? Because if not, I could be liable and sued if you hit your head on something. So I want to know, what's your status regarding your seizures? We talked about the power of the free market. It seems like we're going to have to rely on that at this point because this bill's not going to pass. So I want to communicate to those of you who are listening, there is power in the purse. I believe it was Qatar Airlines who announced that they were going to require vaccines in order for you to fly on their airline. They were the first one to do that, I believe. They immediately got backlash, and they very quickly changed that policy. So, people of Arizona, create the backlash. And finally, this is only half of the issue. Most of the people reaching out to me are saying, I'm going to get fired if I don't get a vaccine. Is my employer going to be able to terminate me if I don't get a vaccine? Those are the emails that I'm getting. So I would have preferred that this bill would have addressed the employer-employee relationship, but the sponsor committed to only dealing with the consumer side of things. So I just want to also mention that we should not give up on the issue of employer-employee relationships. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 says, once an employer receives notice that an employee's sincerely held religious belief, practice, or observance prevents them from taking the influenza vaccine, the employer must provide a reasonable accommodation unless it would pose an undue hardship as defined by Title VII. I propose, members and members of the public, that we just codify that language. We find a way to put that into statute that changes it from the influenza vaccine to the COVID-19 vaccine, so that your employer is required, you don't have to go through litigation to force this, that your employer is required to provide for an exemption if you have one of these things listed here. So as we move forward with this bill failing, we should still continue to try to find solution. We should not go home without some kind of resolution. I know we can get this exemption done for the employer-employee relationship, and I would ask that we push forward at least with that. And with that, I vote aye.
Thank you, ma'am.